Welcome to the Anxiety Connection. If you've ever struggled with anxiety and are ready to finally get some answers, you've come to the right place. Hi, my name is Wendy Leeds, and I've suffered with anxiety my entire life. Thankfully, I'm also a psychotherapist, and over the years, I've learned a lot about anxiety, where it comes from, and how to manage it. That's what this podcast is all about. So, let's grab a cup of tea and talk about it. If you're going through a tough time right now, as so many of us are as we continue to deal with this global pandemic, if you're struggling to deal with the uncertainty of opening or not opening our lives back up, of not knowing what's next, or if you're just dealing with any kind of a difficult change, this podcast is for you. Because today I'm going to offer both hope and a simple, effective way to deal with the changes that happen to all of us. It's an inescapable fact of life. If you're not dealing with change right now, you will be. You know how they say there are only two things in life that are certain: death and taxes? Well, let me add a third to that list. The third thing is change is certain. And let me add, change is stressful. Even a change that you've planned for and hoped for, like getting married, having a child, or buying a dream house, even that kind of change is still stressful because change involves moving into an uncertain future. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what it's going to feel like. You don't know how you're going to react or how your world is going to look after it's all said and done. And that uncertainty is what's so scary. And if positive change is stressful and scary, when you think about the unexpected, unplanned change that comes out of nowhere and turns your life upside down, that can paralyze you with fear, make it hard to breathe, and overwhelm you with anxiety and panic. How do I know? I've been there. And today, I'm going to talk about handling those tough, life-altering changes that blindside you and bring you to your knees. I'm talking about a tough diagnosis, a serious accident, divorce, losing your job, bankruptcy, living through a pandemic, and what comes after. I'm talking about all these things that seem to come out of the blue and change the course of your life forever. For me, the hardest change I faced in my life has come in the form of a cancer diagnosis. If you're a regular listener to the Anxiety Connection, you know I've been diagnosed with cancer 3 times. If you haven't listened before and this is your first, welcome, glad you're here. If you want to learn more about my journey, you might want to go back and listen to some of the earlier podcasts, especially the introduction. I give you a little bit of my history. Anyway, I was diagnosed with breast cancer years ago. Years after that, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and a few years later, I had a relapse of the leukemia. So now I've been told 3 times I have cancer. Believe me, I know about facing the kind of change that knocks the breath out of you. Cancer aside, I have always struggled with change. I love the comfort of my routine. I just love doing the same thing every day in my comfortable little groove. But as you know, change happens whether you want it to or not. You can't stop change. You can't get organized enough, worry enough, or plead with the universe hard enough to keep yourself safe from change. I know because I tried all of those things, and none of them worked. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about this with what's going on in our world with the pandemic. First, we were quarantined at home, which was stressful. Then the challenge of working in a whole new way or not working at all. The financial and relationship issues that have come up. And now some of us are heading back into the world. Clearly, we have all been dealing with serious stress and change. And we have more change and stress yet to come because, as I said, we don't know what's ahead. So how are we going to get through this? How do we deal with changes that come in a way that bring us safely to the life that's waiting for us on the other side of change? How do we get through this? Here's what I've come up with. I think we need to break change down into stages, thinking of it like the stages of a change a butterfly goes through in its life. When you think about it, the butterfly is the ultimate symbol of dealing with change and coming out the other side stronger, better, and freer. And I think the butterfly gives us a sort of guide of how to deal with each stage of our own challenging changes. A butterfly begins life as a tiny egg on the underside of a leaf. The moment that egg hatches, the caterpillar emerges and begins to eat. As you know, the caterpillar isn't much to look at, but that's okay. In this first stage of change and life, its only job is to take care of its physical needs by eating. Caterpillar has one job and one job only. And if you've ever read the book, The Hungry Caterpillar, to your kids, or you remember it from your own childhood, you know what I'm talking about. The caterpillar was born to eat. And that caterpillar is all about dealing with that basic physical need. I think it's much like that for us in the first stage of change. After the first shock has worn off, you're left sleepless, vulnerable, and wondering how you're going to survive this diagnosis, the divorce, bankruptcy, and what will happen next with this pandemic. Here's what I found works for me. Begin by acknowledging that you've lost the comfort of your old familiar routine with its sense of safety and security. It's gone and it's not coming back. You can't go back, no matter how much you want to. The caterpillar can't get back into its egg, and none of us can go back. We have to move forward. And for me, that means the first step is to create a new daily routine that focuses on taking care of your physical needs. And I mean starting with the basics: brushing your teeth, eating well, exercising, getting dressed every day, putting on a pair of pants. You know what I'm talking about in this Zoom world of ours. Getting enough rest. There's nothing fancy or complicated about it. It's just about putting together a daily routine that keeps you healthy physically and keeps you moving towards the next stage. It's about taking back a sense of control when you may feel there isn't much you can do to control what's going on around you. It's about finding a way to function and put one foot in front of the other. Or as Dory says in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. And please, please, please hear this. Just do the best you can. I know from a personal experience how difficult and stressful this stage can be. So it's important time to be really gentle with yourself. No fair yelling at you for not eating kale and oatmeal at every meal. Sometimes the answer is chocolate cake, and that's not wrong. I've always considered ice cream medicinal, so that may be the answer sometimes. You don't have to run a marathon, just go for a walk. This is about taking the very best care of you that you can, nothing more. The other thing you can control in this situation is how you're going to handle it. I remember years ago when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, a wise friend who had helped a family member through cancer said to me, "Wendy, lots of people are going to give you lots of advice. Ignore them all. Do this, get through this, the way that works best for you." I love that advice, and I share it with everyone I can, and today I'm sharing it with you. Do what works for you. There's no right way or wrong way to do cancer or bankruptcy or a pandemic. There's just your way. So follow your heart. Let it lead you to find the way that works best for you. Anyway, this first stage of change is creating a routine that helps you get a new sense of control and find a new normal for your life. I think the next stage of change is the emotional part of the change process, a disassembling of the old you and a reassembling of the you yet to come. As I underwent treatment for cancer, I found the emotional challenges, the need for mental courage and focus, were harder than any of the treatments I went through. I had to summon courage and energy I didn't even know I had. And as I faced the fear of chemo and surgery, it felt like the old me was just melting away. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I was so changed by the treatment. I didn't recognize myself on the inside either anymore. It felt like I was becoming someone else. I had no idea who I was, who I was going to be, and no idea what my life was going to look like once I finished treatment. And that terrified me. The same kind of change is true for the caterpillar. Once it's eaten its fill, it stops eating, crawls out onto a branch or a leaf, hangs upside down, and spins itself a silk cocoon. And then hanging upside down in the darkness, the caterpillar's old body literally melts away to soupy goo. And out of that goo, out of that soup of the old butterfly, a new body slowly takes shape. I don't know about you, but I can really identify with that image of melting into soupy goo because that's how I felt. That maybe you've been there too. Maybe you felt the feeling of literally losing yourself in this process of change. The question is, how do we handle this? Here are a couple of things I found helpful. First of all, acknowledge things are tough right now because they are, but remind yourself, I've been through tough times before. I'll get through this. And here's what I've started telling myself. This really resonates with me, and I hope it does with you. I've been telling myself, I'm in the cocoon right now, and this is where I grow my wings. And on the other side of this, I'll know what it's like to be that butterfly flying free and strong. I just need to get through this to get there. Next, take a good look at your situation. What can you change? Is there a little thing you can do right now to make things better? For me, what helped was getting more information and support in dealing with my anxiety. But what about you? What could you do right now to make your situation better? Is there someone you could ask for help? Is there a professional you can turn to? Do you need to get outside more, work more hours? I'm going to pause here for just a few seconds to give you a chance to consider what's going on in your life and what small thing you might be able to do to make things better. If you came up with something, I suggest you get busy and go do it, because here's what I know. Taking charge of at least some things, even the smallest thing, can help you feel more in control of the chaos. At least it's that way for me. Okay, but what if you gave it your best thought and you couldn't come up with anything you can do to change things? What then? I suggest you try thinking about things differently. And let me give you an example. I knew I had to go for chemo. I knew it would be a long, tough day, and I dreaded every part of it. But when a friend suggested, I tell myself that the people taking care of me were on my side, and they were there to help and support me, not just faceless medical personnel. I felt better about things. That change in thinking really did shift things for me. Deciding that the people taking care of me were on my side helped me relax. And when I relaxed, I was much better able to communicate. And when I communicated more effectively, we were able to find ways through that helped ease my fear. The situation didn't change, but I changed the way I thought about it. And in doing that, was able to better handle things. So let me ask you, what do you dread most about your situation? Could you think about that a little differently? I'm not asking you to lie or make up a story, just to think about things from a different point of view, a different angle. Because when you change the story you're telling yourself, the way you feel about things changes as well. The final stage of change for the butterfly sounds like it's the most difficult of all, and I can relate. When the butterfly is ready to emerge from the cocoon, it just doesn't fly free. It has to fight its way out. And that fight is fierce, but the struggle is necessary. When I worked for Weight Watchers, I often shared the story of a little boy who brought home a caterpillar. And you may have heard this story too. The boy found the caterpillar, brought it home, and put it in a jar with a small branch where he could watch in fascination as the caterpillar went through its changes. It ate the leaves in stage 1, then it crawled under the branch in stage 2. It hung upside down and spun its cocoon. The little boy waited and watched breathlessly to see when the butterfly would emerge. Finally, he saw signs of life in that cocoon as the butterfly began struggling to get out. The little boy could see how hard that butterfly was working to free itself, and wanting to help, he went and got a pair of scissors and cut a hole in the cocoon so the butterfly could climb out. The butterfly did climb out and fell to the bottom of the jar, wings folded and useless. It struggled to fly, but it never could. Because as the boy learned, a butterfly's wings are strengthened in the struggle to break free of the cocoon. Without the struggle, the butterfly can never fly. And I think that's true for us in this final stage of change, where we struggle to claim the new person we've become. At least that's how it was for me. And let me explain a little. After I finished my cancer treatment, I thought I was done. The struggle was over. I was going to get to live my life free and clear. In truth, I was done. I had my wings, but I wasn't ready to fly because the struggle wasn't over. If you've gone through cancer treatment or know someone who has, you know that when you're in cancer treatment, you're doing everything you can to fight it. You have a team fighting with you. You know, neighbors are standing with you. They bring you food. They support you. Friends are with you. You get lots of supportive telephone calls, and everybody's with you. And although treatment is scary, there's a sense of security in knowing you had that team working with you. And you're doing everything you can. It's almost like being in the cocoon. But when you're done with treatment, you realize that you're going to have to make the next part of the journey on your own. And for me, once I finished treatment, the fear of the treatment was replaced with the fear that the cancer would come back. And what if it did? And the realization that there was nothing else I could do. And now I was done with the old life. This new life stretched ahead. I had no idea what it would hold for me. How would I handle it? What would it bring? And who was I after all this change? This last stage of change is tough, but it's necessary, because just like with the butterfly, it's in this fight, this final struggle, that you earn those powerful wings that will take you to the wonderful life waiting for you. So no matter whether you're dealing with divorce, cancer, pandemic, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling like life will never be okay, it's time to break the fear of change down into manageable stages. And from now on, let the life of a butterfly be your guide through the change to the other side. If you found this podcast helpful, I would be really grateful if you would subscribe. I would also really be grateful if you would leave me a review. And until we're together again, I wish you peace, joy, and love.